Thousands of people have been left homeless following the recent floods in KwaZulu-Natal. Houses, businesses and infrastructure has been damaged by last week's heavy rains. South African Special Risk Insurance Association has raised concern about the exclusion of certain groups from access to insurance. Sasria's stakeholder relations manager, Muzi Dladla, joins us now to give us more on this. Good morning. Thank you very much for your time. Firstly, I mean, my understanding is that Sasria would be covering something like special risk, so politically motivated malicious damage, riots, strikes, terrorism, and public disorder. Are you at all involved in the claims around this natural disaster?
No, not involved in this type of, I'd say, contingencies. We cover only special risks that are relating to riots and civil unrest. But I'd just like to clarify, something that might just potentially be a misconception. There is no concern that we have about exclusion of individuals from insurance. I think the point we are raising is some of the things that need to be done so that there is more accessibility to more vulnerable individuals who cannot afford insurance. I think that's the narrative, rather than, exclusion of certain members of society.
Absolutely, and that's a concern, I suppose, that was raised also in Parliament in the wake of the looting that took place on the July unrest. Part of the question that was put to Sasria, and I suppose to an extent to Treasury as well, is why are so many small and medium micro-enterprises or businesses not registered with Sasria? We know that it's not a price thing. They're not opting in because of price, because your products are quite affordable. What do you think is behind the very low take-up of your products?
Yeah, I think that's pretty much exactly what we want to discuss, because as you rightfully say, it was raised by the shareholder, and evidently last year when we had the biggest event, a whole lot of small to medium enterprises as well as some individuals did not have access to Sasria. And as you say, it wasn't just a matter of price, but it was a matter of, first of all, awareness, and that is why you're going to see a whole lot of Sasria in the media. And secondly, it was just a matter of some of the models that we have that did not necessarily extend to some of those, I'd say, more vulnerable individuals and businesses that are really starting up, that are still kind of like struggling. But obviously, as we are today, we are in a process of finding alternative distribution mechanisms that we are able to access those members. And at the same time, in respect of just the overall citizens of South Africa, the South African Insurance Association, because we are a member of, together with all the insurance companies in South Africa, there are programs that we are running at this current moment that we are looking at a more inclusive type of offering that will include majority of those individuals, ones that are affected by limitation of price, and the ones that are affected by limitations of the structure of our insurance offering, so that it's more inclusive.
So critical then to those modalities was this question of whether or not there are measures you can put in place so that businesses are able to access Sasria directly and not via an intermediary. I mean, are there measures in place being put to come up with such a product?
I think the plan for us is not necessarily to go direct, because there's only one Sasria and there's the whole of South Africa. The partnership that we have with the brokers in particular, as well as the insurance companies, is critically important for us. It is to put together structures that will be able to extend to them. Because I'll give you an example, Thabo. Last year, when we had the biggest, riot in history of South Africa, and the impact was so large, Sasria would not have been able to get to everybody at the same speed that we managed to do so if it was not for the traditional insurance market as well as the broker market. Because remember, their role extends not only to handling claims, but to advise, to provide education, for the awareness of who Sasria is and what Sasria is. So that partnership we can never be able to do without. So we are doing programs together with the traditional insurance market.
Yeah. Of the, for example, billions that, in particular, the unrest you distributed in claims, I don't know how much a year do you distribute in claims. How much of that would you say goes to small and medium enterprises in township areas? How much cover do you have there?
Majority of our clients are obviously corporate and commercial clients. So I would say about close to 80% of all claims that we receive would be obviously from that client base. So we have a small portion of the small to medium enterprises, and that is why we are actually even on this platform to talk about what we are doing now to get to be able to access them. The products have already been designed, they've already been approved, and they are actually already out there. So with some of the traditional insurance companies, we are already offering the products that are specifically designed for the small to medium enterprises. So the next part now is to extend the various distribution points so that even somebody who lives in a remote area who potentially just only has a cell phone, then they can still be able to access, the cover wherever they are. So that is the one gap that we're trying to cover at this moment.
Yeah. Over and above the aggressive marketing and, as you put it, the modalities of accessibility that you possibly considering, including using some degree of connectivity and technology, are there other extraordinary measures, particularly on the side of the shareholder, that you think could be considered and implemented to ensure more cover of small, medium, and micro enterprises?
Yes, absolutely. The National Treasury is very serious about expanding the accessibility to those members. We have discussions even beyond offering insurance. I mean, I'm talking about mobilization of certain funds when there has been a disaster where Sasria, for instance, would have the infrastructure as well as the ability to get to the members on time, alleviating ex-post financing delays, and secondly, at the same time, because we can't quantify the damage, we have assessments when we have assessors with partnership with various assessment companies as well. So we can be able to quantify the damage and at the same time be able to relieve the exact amount, not less and not more, so that the individuals who are affected, they are put back in the same position. And that is why we're advocating for this public-private partnership, so that when there's a relief, it is fast, and it is adequate to the needs of those affected.
Yeah. Now, Sasria, of course, was put in place in 1979, following the uprisings in 1976, as a way of being able to cover contingent liability. Seeing now an increase in natural disasters, which, in a sense, is a risk to the fiscal stability and government having to constantly be pouring out money, do you think it would be something crucial for government to now consider covering natural disaster through Sasria?
Natural disasters currently are covered by the private sector, but even there, some of the of the events have been so extreme that their own private equity becomes threatened. And we've seen even the biggest issue is some reinsurers have not been able to cover the degree of the extent of damage. So as a result, I think it is about time now that we consider getting involved as well together with the private sector. I think the idea, which I think that we are talking about right now, is to look at creating some sort of a pooling of resources between state and the private sector, particularly as it relates to drought. I would isolate that one specifically because it is a ticking time bomb that is looming. South Africa is a semi-arid country, and it was sort of a mini desert in a way. So when we're going to have the next events that are relating to drought, that you can imagine what the consequences of that would be extremely devastating. So yes, the answer is yes, we are looking to do that, but we can never be able to do that on our own. We would like to do that together with the private sector, and there's been a very big interest, particularly from the insurers that are insuring that type of cover as is right now. I can give you some statistics, about the type of comprehensive drought cover that has been offered. I mean, from 2006 up to now, I would say there's been about more than 50% decrease in the cover for the planted area. There were more than 1 million hectares of land covered for drought, and today there's less than 50% of capacity that is available for that. So the state is required, I would say we are required, and the private sector is required to pull together resources so that that type of cover is actually expanded and it is done in such a way that it is more sustainable for the future, because I can tell you the losses that are sustained by the private sector right now are not sustainable at all. And I don't necessarily see them being able to continue to do that for the longest of time.
Muzi Dladla, thank you for your intervention this morning. Stakeholder Relations Manager at Sasria.